So first of all, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, in this last session on specialized cargo carriers. The theme being managing risk in high value and hazardous cargo. And we couldn't have had a better panel to have this discussion. With us, we have experts from four various sub areas of the specialized cargo domain. We have Mr. Sumit from Specialised, who has expertise in moving bulk cargo such as fly ash and pet coke. We have Ms. Nikita, who has expertise in handling transportation of FMCG and e-commerce cargo. We have Mr. Gupta, who is a veteran in the ODC and project cargo space. And we have Mr. Ram Ratan Singhi, who has great expertise in, again, the high value and container logistics space. So with this short introduction, if I look at the logistics space in the last 4-5 years, we've seen a lot of enablers coming into play. We've seen the National Logistics Policy, we've seen the PM Gati Shakti plan come into action, and we've also seen the Unified Logistics Interface Platform come into play. Having said all of that, there's a lot of demand side changes also that's happened, and as a result, that has given birth to something very nuanced in each of these subsectors with respect to the client demands that come in. So, I mean, when we typically think of specialized cargo, the first theme that comes to our mind is something like project cargo or ODC cargo. So I'll just begin with that, and my first question would be towards Mr. Gupta in that context. That when we look at something like ODC or project cargo, in 2026 we have something like single window clearance in place from a permissions or a approval standpoint. However, sometimes ground reality is that while the whole part of it is something which gets taken care of, we've seen that at the last 50-kilometer checkpoints, when it comes to say interstate movement or hyper local movement, there is still confusion that happens with respect to say permissions or maybe certain bridges which need to be reassessed whether that cargo can cross, and all of these operational issues. So I mean, to start things off, Mr. Gupta, how do you see these challenges evolving, and how can that be addressed, I mean, going ahead in the future?
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I thank the organizing team for inviting me here. To begin with, Mihir, you asked about the single window clearance. This came in early 2015. Mr. Gadkari, our Honorable Road Transport Minister, he started this online permission thing. Earlier, for a cargo weighing more than a certain limit, we had to submit a lot of documents to the Ministry of Road Transport. For any cargo moving anywhere in the country using any national highway, we needed a permission from the central government ministry. So that thing was done away with very efficiently. All the documents are being submitted online. A small fee, which was always applicable, per kilometer fee, is also being paid online, and that permission is given within a very short period, which was only taking about 2 or 3 weeks. And obviously, how you get permissions, everyone knows. We don't need to talk about that. The ground realities, that's a completely different thing. It depends on a lot of factors. Cargo to cargo, industry to industry, it's completely different. Right now, what we are seeing after COVID, a lot of capacity enhancement has been going up. The growth has been vertical and horizontal. By horizontal, I mean the industries, their power plants, the steel plants, almost everyone is hiking their production capacity. And there is a change in technology. Meaning any production will require new machinery, new planning. When we move the ODC cargo, first of all, we need to study the cargo, and then we need to study the route. Route survey is very important, which is time consuming, effort consuming, and cost consuming. And this is where when we are not successful, that has been the reason, because when the route survey has not been done properly. You must have seen the toll boards, the skywalks, sky bridges. those are obstacles. And the cargo sometimes, many times, is more than the the height which can be moved smoothly. And if the survey has not been done properly, it's completely stuck. There have been instances when cargo has been stuck for months at a certain place. There have been instances where bridges have collapsed. The entire bridges have collapsed. So the survey is the most important thing, and survey needs to be done thoroughly by a professional. Now companies have understood this, and only the experienced transporters are getting involved in this. So you asked me what is the ground reality. The ground reality is the proper survey, a professional team, and your crew. We call our the OTC staff crew. The operator, he is more important than the driver. The operator sits at the rear. All the wheels of the hydraulic axles, they move simultaneously, the left or right. Move means not forward or back, left or right, like the front wheel. Yeah. The operator's job is to move those wheels. So the driver needs to move only the front two wheels, left or right. The operator needs to move all the wheels simultaneously. Right. So his job is more important. He has to be more technically perfect. So this is the ground reality which you're asking about.
Understood.
And things are changing, definitely. People are more professional. Well, obviously, 100% efficiency is not achieved, but we are much better than we were 10 years ago. Thank you.
So, sir, just a quick follow-up on that. As you mentioned quite rightly about route surveys and planning, right? How does this work right now? I mean, is it still reliant on something like a third-party surveyor, or have transporters begun to develop internal capabilities? I mean, moving this to more like a technical, engineering-driven operation more than, just a pure play transportation, exercise. Some thoughts on that?
It's both ways. Some people we have our own team, and there is a third-party help also. It's available. It's how you look at it. And it's both ways. For example, a bridge has a capacity, carrying capacity. Even flyovers have carrying capacities here in the cities. Right. Bridges in urban areas, rural areas have carrying capacity. Railway crossings. Railway crossing is very important. You need to take the power off permission and get the power cut off.
Right.
And in narrow bridges, where the width is less, you need to hold traffic from one side. So you can't just hold it. You need RTO permission for that.
Understood.
For all these things, first they need to be surveyed, and then you need to get the permissions. The single window clearance is only for carrying the cargo. These localized permissions are separate.
Understood.
And with proper documentation, these are gettable.
Understood, sir. So, I mean, from an infra and operation standpoint, if I move to a parallel area, on the transportation side, maybe apart from ODC, which is maybe becoming just as complex, is also the line haul part. And, where, Mr. Singhi, you have a fair bit of expertise. And I think especially on the high value side, in the container segment, you have a good experience. And what I understand is most recently you've, tried to pilot concepts like drag and drop, which we've seen in emerging markets like, India just right now, which have been established in, countries like US long back. So just wanted to understand from an operational and infrastructure standpoint, how is it that, you are undertaking an exercise like this, and how do you see that shaping up, in the country going ahead?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. To take your question in two parts. The one part is about the high value shipments. So Shaw Group as a company or as a long haul trucking partner of most of our customers, we started a pilot with 100% video telematic enabled fleet to move high value electronics across India by road. And in the initial days, we got a lot of support from some of the well-known brands in the industry. And now that product is fairly well established as far as moving high-value electronics like mobile phones, laptops, printers, etc. are concerned. And simultaneously, that has also helped us, the video telematics, to reduce the accidents rates even further than what we were able to do earlier. So back in 2021, we had piloted some concept with Mobileye for in-cabin alert for accident reduction. while that had helped a lot, but the next level when we went into video telematics, it took it to a totally different level now. Now we are not only able to reduce the accidents, we are able to kind of predict the driver behavior to an extent, and also counsel him or call him while he is on the driving seat to take safe driving precautions and to avoid accidents. And with that being achieved, now we are moving to the next stage of the industry from the point of view of unlocking potential for a truck. So drag and drop as a concept got developed because of the few problems and challenges we were facing as a rigid trucking company. Two prominent challenges are: one is the unloading point detention. So you have taken a truck to point A to point B in 72 hours, but the unloading point says that we do not have space in the warehouse. You please wait for sometimes as long as 7 days. So we realized that there were two ways to solve this. One is, of course, you keep banging the door of the customer, keep requesting him, ask him to take humanitarian grounds about the driver being stationed outside for 7 days. None of that worked actually. So we had to flip the whole thing, and we said we do the other way around. Instead of telling the customer to unload the vehicle fast or be humanitarian or, think philosophical way, we thought let's do it the other way around. We tell the customer that I will leave the container trolley with you, but I will take away my prime mover, the main part of the truck, and with the driver being again put on another load by leaving the container truck with you. And we will, of course, charge the detention, but even if you want to hold it for 15 days, hold it. It's none of my problem now. Once we started talking in this language with the customer, the things began to smoothen out, and now we are seeing good acceptability of this concept in our customers. However, the challenges remain, because in this model of drag and drop, what you have to do is your trolley is registered separately. It has a separate registration number, separate RC, separate insurance, and your prime mover has a separate number, separate RC, separate insurance. And when you do drag and drop, there is front number is different and the back number is different. And not all the warehouses or manufacturing sites understand this concept. So when a truck enters, let's say truck A entered with one trolley and it came out, and then another trolley took it to the unloading point. So they do not understand that there has been a change of only the trolley, and your material has been kept in the same container number, which was the original container number in which we had loaded the material. So this challenge is still we are trying to address with some of the customers. And other than this, of course, there was also a challenge in some customers where they said, we can't allow you to take out your prime mover because that is not as per our policy. This same has to be, kept till the vehicle gets unloaded. So I think it's these are initial hiccups. Over time, the customers will understand the value proposition. For drag and drop, we are able to offer customers between 5 to 7% in the freight component cost reduction. So that is what is driving them to understand and adopt this model. And for us as a fleet, if I give you the numbers, my non-drag and drop trucks do about 11,000 kilometers on an average. My drag and drop trucks do about 16,000 kilometers per month on an average. So I think people in the room will appreciate that this is value unlocking, because now your driver is not waiting for the load, he is constantly moving.
I think that's a very interesting thing to note, Mr. Singhi, that that's almost like a 50% increase in the utilization, and I think a lot of our audience would be interested to further explore that. I just wanted to have one quick follow-up on that. Is are the Indian warehouses, all the infrastructure ready for a concept like that? What has been your experience? Has that needed some sort of realignment, restructuring, or is it, very quick and easily doable, the drag and drop concept in India?
No, so as I said, before we start any of these projects with the customer, there is a lot of background work done in terms of making sure that the customer has this understanding that the front number will be different and the back number will be different of the truck, and therefore their MIS has to kind of understand this particular concept, that the POD may have a different number of a truck getting delivered when the material was picked in a different truck number. At the same time, warehouses still, as I said, continue to think that if a truck is hold, it has to be with the driver. They are not still willing to let go of the driver and leave just the container. And from that perspective, we want a solution from the industry in general, from the video telematics industry and the tracking industry in general, is that we are looking for a solution where our container truck which is standing at a certain customer location without the prime mover should be able to have its own tracking mechanism and should be able to have its own camera module so that we can observe that truck and container even when there is no driver with the truck, thereby ensuring complete safety of the cargo. Even though the truck remains in the premises of the customer, but having said that, if there is nobody looking after it, there could be some chance of a theft or some kind of a mishap. So we want to just avoid that part, and that is why we are looking for solutions from the video telematics industry in particular, if they can come up with some unique innovation where a truck without a prime mover, a container truck, can be monitored, which means I'm saying it is both the GPS monitoring tracking as well as the video telematics. And that's what I hope that if somebody from Light Metrics can help me.
Sure, sir. I think, thank you for sharing that. Now, you spoke about, a 5 to 7% reduction in freight. And with that as a thought, if I just come to the segment which is probably the most freight intensive amongst the four that we are discussing right now, that would be the bulk segment, sir. And there we have Mr. Sumit, who has an expertise in transporting fly ash, pet coke, and commodities as such. I just wanted to get your take from a regulatory or from a compliance standpoint. We've seen some recent changes, especially when it comes to commodities like fly ash, in terms of the environmental requirements that have been put up, or the transparent tendering that has been put up as a process. What I understand is more and more entities like CPCB are insisting that rather than having an open tipper transport fly ash, you have something like a closed bulker, and various other measures such as that, to bring it in closer comparison to how maybe tanker transport operates. So I just wanted to get your take from a compliance standpoint or a regulatory standpoint, how all of that affects your operations, and at the end of the day, this being a freight intensive commodity, how does that affect the margins, and how are you tackling that as a entity?
Hello everyone, myself Sumit from Shri Ash Tech Limited. I'm handling the operation in my company. Sir is saying about what are the impact due to compliance in your particular area. Everybody is talking about compliance. That consists some certifications and some pressure vehicle certification in our segment, in bulker segment. But nobody is talking about the skill improvement of a driver. That is the main things. हम 50 लाख की एक गाड़ी किसी बंदे को दे रहे हैं विदाउट नोइंग कि वो उस गाड़ी को कैसे चलाएगा. आई एम बाय प्रोफेशन ए चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, क्वालिफाइड इन 2012. मैंने 4 एक्ट पढ़े थे, गवर्नमेंट ने सारे चेंज कर दिए. आज की डेट में मुझे उनमें से कुछ नहीं आता. अगर कुछ आएगा तब आएगा अगर मैं उसे रेगुलर पढ़ूंगा. देन अगेन ए स्किल इम्प्रूवमेंट. सो द सेम कंसेप्ट शुड बी इन केस ऑफ ड्राइवर ऑल्सो. So we have developed a system in which we are working on a skill of a driver. आज कोई भी एक ऐसा मैकेनिज्म नहीं है या कोई भी एक ऐसे डाटाबेस नहीं है कि आज मैं एक बंदे को हायर कर रहा हूँ कि वो मेरे ट्रक्स को कैसे चलाएगा. So we have developed a system कि जैसे ही वो गाड़ी को स्टार्ट करेगा in a 24 hour segment, उसका पूरा स्किल सेट उसके अंदर आएगा. किस तरीके से वो गाड़ी के अंदर और इम्प्रूवमेंट कर सकता है. हम उसे 8 से 10 पैरामीटर के अंदर एनालाइज करते हैं. कैसे वो अदर ड्राइवर्स को इन्फ्लुएंस कर सकता है. दैट इज़ द मेन थिंग. कंप्लायंस में देखो, लाइक इन फ्लाई एश इज अ hazardous material generated by a thermal power plant while generating electricity. So that is mostly used in RMC segment in cement plant, replacing cement in RMC while making a concrete. So अब जब कंप्लायंस की बात आती है ना, so everybody is expecting from a transporter कि सारी चीज़ें यही करे. Nobody is investing. Neither a company which are our customer like cement plants, or even अब like February और March का मंथ आ ही रहा है. So आप लोगों को जब चलान कटने स्टार्ट हो जाएंगे, चाहे आपकी सारी चीज़ें पूरी हैं, पर हर बल्कर पे या किसी गाड़ी पे 10-10 हज़ार का आपको परचाना स्टार्ट हो जाएगा. दैट इज़ कि सर हमारा टारगेट है इतना. सो फ्रॉम वन वे हम कहीं पे भी रीच नहीं कर सकते. सो अगर गवर्नमेंट और इंडस्ट्री और सारे स्टेक होल्डर अगर मिल के चलें, देन देर इज़ अ वे फॉरवर्ड.
Thank you, sir, for that. Uh, while giving an overview of compliance, you also spoke about monitoring the driver or the vehicle. So, I mean, I just wanted to understand a little bit more in detail that usually that is something which we associate with cleaner or high value commodities, especially. I mean, I'll come to you, Nikita, on that topic specifically because you are the expert on that side. But in something like, say, fly ash or hazardous goods, how does that help you in, say, managing your fleet and at the most managing client expectations also? Is there a pressure of track and trace or predictability or route management from these clients as well, or is that a little less so compared to, say, cleaner cargo commodities?
Sir, fly ash is basically production के लिए which is very necessary because it is replacing a product which is value is 5 rupees kg and the cost of fly ash is 1 rupees kg. So you can expect कि customer का chasing power क्या होगा जब उसे 5 रुपए की जगह 1 रुपए की चीज़ replace हो रही है और if that is not available, so उसे जो 4 रुपए का difference देना पड़ेगा. So tracking आप समझ सकते हैं कि how much important in this area. So we have developed something like one company is Move AI, which is working on this for our company. कि कस्टमर को जब से गाड़ी प्लेस होती है और जब तक उसके प्लांट पे रीच नहीं हो जाती, on every 5 minute or 10 minute के डिफरेंस पे he can any kind of alert कि which driver is driving, what is the behavior of that drivers, or at what time that will reach, because production loss is the maximum loss जो एक कोई भी कस्टमर फेस कर सकता है. So tracking के ऊपर we are very strict.
Thank you, Mr. Sumit. So now on that note, I'll just come to you, Nikita. You have a host of clients on the FMCG side and on the e-commerce side as well. And what we've seen increasingly is the whole element of digitization and monitoring and optimizing the fleet is something which is very seriously taken up, at least in those spaces. And in that context, is something like, say, track and trace more like a bread and butter right now, or I mean, more of an assumed thing? Or is it that, I mean, we are moving towards certain newer areas, such as, say, predictive analytics, or even maybe something like, say, AI or data science kind of thing coming in, even in logistics planning, or, replacing planners or dispatchers? I mean, some thoughts on that, in terms of what you are seeing from the client side on that.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, good evening, everyone. I know we are the closing panel, so I hope we are keeping everyone awake. So I think on the first question that you asked about track and trace, I think the segment that we operate in, track and trace is just an assumption now. It's, kind of a default that you should have. If you are not able to provide your client live visibility, then it's kind of seen as a basic capability gap. But I think what's shifting now is that clients are not just asking, where is my truck? Now they're starting to ask, okay, how safe is the movement? And I think that's where a lot of the predictive data and preventative alerts and AI and all of that has started coming into play, is really in this particular segment. And I think here we are seeing a lot of impressive technologies that are coming up, whether you have your AI dash cams, you have your geofencing alerts, you have like your rear view surveillance cameras, you have container-based cameras that can count the pellets. And a lot of this is ultimately coming into play, but I think it's not necessarily only about the technology. I think what matters here is, how disciplined your processes are when you are kind of leveraging this technology as well. I think that is also very important. And I think clients don't necessarily care about, seeing your, say, your, fatigue dashboards for your drivers or, your shock monitoring alerts. They care about outcomes. They want fewer incidents. They want zero fatalities. They want better driving behavior. They want safer and predictable driving. And I think the technology is basically just a means to achieve that outcome. So clients are not really interested in the technology piece. I think it is on the transporters to then ultimately, how do you use that technology and leverage it and convert that into predictive action? So I think that's where it is very important. And I think earlier, like, all your contracts, they were very simple. Like you had your cost per kilometers, you had, your TATs, you had your penalties for delay. But now sophisticated clients, they are more open to kind of having, structured SLAs, basically around escalations that you're doing, around your risk reporting frameworks, around what visibility you can provide them. Again, it's more subtle. It's not that you can build this as a separate line item, but it is definitely something that they do care about. But ultimately, the end goal is that you should be able to leverage and act on that technology. So, we've seen this with AI dash cams and that have come up. In fact, recently, one of our major clients, they had a full day safety session. I was talking to some of my fellow peers about it, and basically they invited, their leading transport partners. They invited, a major AI dashcam vendors, and the message was just, zero fatalities is a non-negotiable goal. And, you have to take up technology, you have to commit to this, and you have to walk out of that room. But there's a lot of commercial tension underneath this. I think a lot of panelists spoke about this because, you're mandating, clients are mandating all these technologies, but who is going to bear the cost, right? Where I think that is where the question starts, is the cost of ownership is ultimately put on the transporters. And that is not an easy financial burden to bear in today's cost-sensitive environment. So I think somewhere there has to be a long-term view we have to take, and I think that's where a lot of this predictive data comes into play. I think is how do you kind of leverage that data? I think, as my fellow panelists was saying, that with this AI dashcam footage, you can use it as evidence in legal cases, which can alone justify the investment. You can also use this AI dashcam footage to coach and counsel your drivers. It leads to fewer accidents. When you have fewer accidents, you have fewer, legal costs. You have better insurance outcomes. You have more trust in the whole ecosystem. You have less vehicle downtime. So it has a lot of commercial implications, but you have to take a long-term view to it, and look at it as an investment rather than as an expense. So I think that's where predictive data is heading, but ultimately no data can help and no technology can help unless you have the processes and the people and the structure to act on that. So I think that is for the first part. And I think on the second part about AI replacing planners, so I think this is very interesting because, of course, whatever I answer now, I think will only be valid for a few months because I think we've had some very interesting conversations about AI.
It's very dynamic.
Yeah, it's very dynamic and very fast evolving. So I think it'll be very wrong for me to say that, this is what I think and this is how it will look like. I think things are moving so quickly that it is very difficult to predict what might happen. But as of this moment, I think that AI cannot replace planners. Will it help planners? Yes. I think a lot of what planners do today is not really strategic. It's a lot of firefighting. I think we all see this when we operate our fleets. So yes, absolutely, AI will take over the repetitive parts. It will take over the reactive parts of the job, when you are just kind of optimizing routes or balancing loads or doing things like that. But AI cannot fully replace planners because I think in the Indian ecosystem, logistics is very, very emotional. It is not just a mechanical or, purely optimized space. So I think in that context, it is very important for us to understand that a planner is not just assigning loads. They are managing so much psychology, uncertainty. They're managing a lot of complexity, right? So we've all had our driver. A driver, now why does a driver call a planner, right? He wants to speak to someone he can trust. Now that driver, through agentic AI, maybe he will have the option to call an AI agent. But will he want to do that? Because in that moment, a driver does not want a reroute or he doesn't want...
It's empathy.
Yeah, he wants empathy, he wants reassurance. He wants to speak to someone he can trust, someone who can negotiate with the local authorities, someone who can mediate the situation on the ground. He's not looking for an AI to tell him, oh, aapka risk report ye hai, 82% hai, you take this route, this will be more efficient. That is not what he's looking for. So, and we operate in a situation, as you were saying, like certain bridges will suddenly stop accepting certain axle loads. There will be political parties that may have a rally and the route may shut down. A driver will say, I don't want to go to X town because of XYZ reasons. So you need a planner to navigate this. So I think ultimately, at least at this point of time, I think AI will not replace planners. I think AI will replace bad planning. It will make planners not just spreadsheet operators, but better decision makers, hopefully. And I think we have to think of this as kind of an AI augmented and human-led planning. I think that would be the future rather than, purely thinking of it as just AI taking over the world. I don't think that we should be worried about AI in that sense.
Understood. So, thank you, Nikita. I think you, put some thought around the analytics part as well and the monitoring part as well. I mean, one area where, we are seeing that now happening is also in the ODC space, which, Mr. Gupta spoke about. So, I just wanted some sense on that from you, sir, that when we look at, say, something like Project Cargo or ODC Cargo, of late, we have seen, clients insisting on technologies such as shock sensors or tilt loggers and various other, devices, which possibly not just track the location, but also the real-time condition of the job or the, component that is being transported. And many a times, I mean, it happens that there may be certain readings out in that which may not be very real in that sense. And it may lead to some discussions about, say, liabilities, risks, etc. So how does that overall risk-sharing framework work? I mean, from a tech angle perspective, if I look at ODC Cargo, with the advent of devices such as these.
See, yours is a mixed question. You mixed up 3-4 things. Tech plus the risk distribution, risk sharing.
So we can start with the tech parts. I mean, how that is shaping up in maybe the ODC Cargo. And then
ODC is using tech. It has been using tech for a long time. For example, I need to know all the tolls, so I don't need to go to the road and get the location of the tolls. We already had it, and now we have it much more efficiently. So that is only one part. We know the main highways, but we need to know the adjacent roads also. Many a time, half of the time, the ODC cargo is not carried through the national highways. So there again, maybe I'm repeating, the survey thing again comes. Tech won't help you to actually tell what is the position of your cargo. It can't. It can tell you maybe the location, obviously only the location. But it can't tell you how is the cargo going.
okay,
At least it can't tell it now.
understood.
Maybe we'll have much more technology in the future.
Because we were seeing globally things like, say, shock sensors, which essentially monitor the job which is being transported on a real-time basis. So are we seeing things like that in India?
No,
or
not
still
now.
Far away?
At the moment, no. But most of the ODC cargo is carried on hydraulic axles. They already built to absorb certain shocks.
Understood.
At the moment, we are not, at least not to my knowledge, no technology is used to get to know what sort of shocks are being taken.
Understood. Got it, sir. So, I mean, from that perspective, if I look at it from a risk angle, I mean, given the value of the cargo, the whole intent is to monitor the condition and, ensure that it is there in one piece or, in the right kind of situation when it is being delivered. So how does that risk sharing work between, say, a transporter or a client and, say, even the insurer? I mean, are the transporters still made to bear the entire cost of it? I mean, like I think Nikita was also saying, I mean, a lot of tech part is something that gets loaded onto the transporter. So is it a case that a lot of the liability risk is also getting loaded on the transporters on the ODC side?
In ODC, the liability is very broad. I'll give an example. A steel plant is being built and the packages are being moved. One package gets damaged. It doesn't mean only one package. The entire plant is delayed.
Right.
And delayed extensively. It has happened. One steel plant in Odisha, it was about 8 or 9 years ago, it got delayed by 8 months. All the entire machinery was being imported from Germany, One cargo just got overturned and the entire plant got delayed. Where is the risk here? The transporter was carrying only one package. And I might be biased, I might sound biased. The fault was at the shipper's point. It wasn't properly packaged.
Right.
So the risk factor is, you can't really define it. It's very broad.
Understood.
Situation to situation, it depends on many factors.
Understood. So are we seeing some safeguards being put in place right now or some processes?
Yeah, there are proper SOPs. If they are followed properly, in most cases they work. The packaging is as important as the route survey,
Understood.
and sometimes more important. There have been instances that the cargo has got damaged because of improper packaging.
Understood.
Only to save some cost or some efforts, the packaging was done, or maybe due to lack of skill. So here is where the expertise and the experience comes.
Fair point. So do we see transporters integrating backwards, sir, to that extent? I mean, like we are seeing in, say, line haul, where maybe say the transportation and storage or warehousing or some form of that is
but that is a different thing. The risk factor and the backward integration for storage, these are two different
so
things.
Here I'm talking about the packaging part, which you spoke about. That's one of the part which causes most of the damage and, is
Many of the damages.
Yeah. So do you see transporters such as yourself integrating backwards sometime, and get involved in the packaging systems and
No, the shipper prefers to keep it at their side.
So that's not something which is
That is very seldom on the part of the transporter.
Understood.
The shipper knows his cargo much better. The weight distribution in an ODC cargo is never even.
Right.
The shipper knows it much better than the transporter.
Understood.
And he's more equipped.
Understood.
The higher side of the risk is with the shipper. Like I told you, one piece is not one piece. It's an entire plant.
It's an entire plant. Yeah.
And you can imagine a 5,000 crore steel plant being delayed for 8 months. He needs to be very lucky that his account doesn't go into NPA.
Yeah.
If the plant is delayed for 8 months.
There are, snowballing implications to that.
Wide implications. It's not a one single bomb, it's a destruction of the entire city.
Fair
if I can use that term.
Fair point, sir. Sir, so if I look at it from a different angle, from a line haul standpoint, Mr. Singhi, where maybe not just the damage part, but at times, given your area of work, time-sensitive, deliveries are also something which need to be looked at, especially on the container side, where there will be shipping manifests which need to be adhered to, or maybe production schedules. So, from that standpoint, how do you look at ensuring that timely delivery and uptime for vehicles from a maintenance standpoint? I mean, looking at more of a preventive maintenance vis-a-vis break to fix kind of model, because I think you spoke a lot, I think, in the initial part where you were talking about you're monitoring the drivers, the vehicles, and doing some analysis on that. So how is that working out in your area?
Okay, so let me first clarify one misconception. We do containerized truck transportations, but we are not into the EXIM container transportation. Okay. That's one clarification I wanted to do. Second thing is, as a company, we started as a cargo securing company back in 2008. And our primary business used to be to secure cargo against transit damages before we entered trucking. So trucking came in 2013. But before that, for 5 years, our primary business was to do export packaging or to do transit damage prevention packaging to the cargoes, the kind of cargoes Mr. Gupta was just mentioning, the project cargoes. Even today, we do work for some of the heavy machinery exports from India. Our team works there to do securing of those cargoes inside a container. So that is a different part of our business where we do only securing element, where we don't engage in the transportation of that container. From the high value shipments perspective, or what we also do, we do a lot of packaged chemical shipments. So when we entered trucking, one of the things we differentiated ourselves vis-a-vis other trucks available in the market was to have an integrated cargo securing in our containers. So all our container trucks are fitted with E-tracks, fitted with the E-track belts, and fitted with container nets, as well as in some cases we have taken it upon ourselves based on the customer's value of the shipment and the freight that we get. We give complementary cargo securing, by which we do complementary dunnage airbag filling and complementary lashing. And that is, we have taken it upon ourselves because let's say the cost of doing that is 1,000 or 2,000 rupees per truck, but the cost of a damage, if it happens, could run into some few thousands or even in lakhs. So that is where we have changed the perspective of the customer, that why cargo securing is an integrated and important part of trucking. It should not be seen separately. It should not be seen just merely as a cost. And as Mr. Gupta was mentioning many times, shipper is actually responsible for the transit damages, which ultimately gets debited to the transporters. When I'm a transporter, I felt that pain much more. When I was a cargo securing person, I was happy because I used to get paid for that. But having said that, we realized that that business is very minuscule part of the whole ecosystem. Trucking is a bigger part. When you do the big part and you give a small thing, as a complimentary to a customer, customers appreciate that. And we get the customer stickiness, which is very difficult to replicate.
Understood. Understood. So, I mean, we looked at the cargo security part from, say, the ODC standpoint or even the high value standpoint. From a bulk standpoint, Mr. Sumit, how does, that work? I mean, in your area of work, do you see pilferage as a major issue at some, level? And how do you work with something like that, if it's an issue?
We are basically working two commodity. One is fly ash, another is cement. And fly ash is a very low value item. So इतने में उसे निकालेगा, उससे ज़्यादा उसका मैन पावर लॉस ही हो जाएगा. And in cement, there is a tolerance of 0.5%. So driver are too much intelligent कि वो 0.5 ही चोरी करता है. और वो कंपनी का ही लॉस होता है, तो उसके अंदर हम थोड़ा सा सेफ गार्ड हो जाता है. वन पॉइंट आई वांट टू डिस्कस कि हम ऐसी सिचुएशन ही क्यों आती है कि ड्राइवर को चोरी करनी पड़े. देयर इज थिंग कि इफ़ आई एम गिविंग यू 40,000 और एंड योर एक्सपेंसेस आर 50,000, सो डेफिनेटली वो आप कहीं ना कहीं से निकाल लोगे. सो वी हैव टू वर्क ऑन दैट. हमारा जो ट्रांसपोर्ट सिस्टम जो आज भी चल रहा है इन सो मेनी ट्रांसपोर्टेशन एरिया, आप कहीं पे भी जाएंगे, देयर इज अ सम स्मॉल पोर्शन ऑफ अमाउंट दैट इज़ फिक्स्ड and other is variable on depends upon trips, how many trips are you are making. और जो हमारा सेगमेंट है, द जनरेशन ऑफ फ्लाई एश टोटली डिपेंड अपॉन द डिमांड ऑफ द इलेक्ट्रिसिटी. दिल्ली में ठंड बढ़ गई तो हमारे थर्मल बैठ जाएंगे, सो हमारा जनरेशन नहीं होएगा. देन देर इज़ टू मच आइडल टाइम, बल्कर्स खड़े रहेंगे या जो भी गाड़ियाँ डिप्लॉय हैं, सो ड्राइवर के ट्रिप्स नहीं लगेंगे तो वो अर्न कैसे करेगा. देन देर शुड बी ए मिनिमम अमाउंट विच वी हैव टू डिसाइड कि इतना अमाउंट हमें देना पड़ेगा ड्राइवर को. दैट कंसेप्ट शुड बी देयर बिकॉज दैट पर्सन इज ड्राइविंग फॉर 24 आवर्स. अवेलेबिलिटी तो है ही, चाहे आप चलवाओ या मत चलवाओ. एंड आज हम अगर देखेंगे, सो मेनी इंडस्ट्रीज आर डूइंग देयर रिसर्च, लाइक टायर इंडस्ट्री, दे आर सेइंग कि हमने एक टायर बनाया है जो आपको फ्यूल एफिशिएंट देता है. और मैनी ट्रांसपोर्टर्स आर सेइंग कि सर डीजल तो हमारे स्कोप में ही नहीं है, तो हम आपको एक्स्ट्रा पेमेंट क्यों करेंगे. सो हमें कभी सोचना चाहिए ना, डीजल शुड बी इन आवर स्कोप. ड्राइवर को सिर्फ गाड़ी चलाने दो, आप अपना सेंसर इन्वॉल्व करो, जो भी आपको अपनी टेक्नोलॉजीज लगानी है. बिकॉज द ट्रांसपोर्टर हु आर नॉट यूजिंग टेक्नोलॉजी इन देयर सेगमेंट, देन दे आर मेकिंग अ नींबू पानी विदाउट द यूज़ ऑफ नींबू. यही हो गया, बड़ा सिंपल. सो देखो, हमें कुछ बोल्ड डिसीजन अपने जिस सेगमेंट में हम काम कर रहे हैं, वी हैव टू टेक दैट. अदरवाइज पिलफ्रेज और ये सारी चीज़ों में चोर पुलिस वाला गेम हम खेलते रहेंगे. दैट्स फ्रॉम माय साइड.
Sir, on the front of drivers, since you spoke about the driver pay, which is actually a quite important topic given this forum, just wanted to understand your view that are you seeing a shift towards a fixed pay model from a current variable pay model for the drivers? Is that acceptable by the drivers themselves as of now, or are they preferring a variable pay model itself where you pay them by the trip with overheads?
सर, इसका आंसर हम ऐसे समझ सकते हैं, अगर सोलर कभी किसी ने यूज़ करा हो, वन इज़ ऑन ग्रिड, अनदर इज़ ऑफ ग्रिड, एंड वन इज़ हाइब्रिड. सो हमने एक हाइब्रिड मॉडल उसके अंदर डाला है. दैट देर इज़ सम सर्टेन अमाउंट लाइक 39,000, दैट इज़ अ मिनिमम पे दैट यू विल गेट डिपेंडिंग अपॉन योर ट्रिप्स एंड समथिंग इज फिक्स पार्ट. अगर ड्राइवर ने उससे ज़्यादा मेहनत कर ली, देन वो एडिशनल हो जाएगा. प्लस वन पैरामीटर विच वी हैव सेट कि एक ग्रेडिंग सिस्टम हमने बनाया. ग्रेडिंग सिस्टम के अंदर जो भी हम ड्राइवर से करवाना चाहते हैं, हम उसके एक सब्जेक्ट ऐड कर देते हैं. लाइक इन आवर स्कूल टाइम्स की हमारा एक रिपोर्ट कार्ड हमें मिला करता था. इंग्लिश, हिंदी, मैथ्स सब्जेक्ट्स हमारे हुआ करते थे. वी हैव टू स्कोर ग्रेड इन दैट, देन हमारा टोटल बन जाता था. द सेम सिस्टम विच वी अप्लाइड इन आवर कंपनी. ड्राइवर्स से हमें जो भी करवाना होता है, हम उस स्कोर कार्ड्स में ऐड कर देते हैं. if we are having 100 drivers, then 100% will do. That is our model.
Understood. So that's more like a fitted version of something like what you have appraisals in corporate. I mean, that's more like a mechanism to aggregate. Understood. So I mean, I'll just jump to the last question right now before we jump to Q&A. Since we are on the topic of pilferage and cargo security, Nikita, you deal with e-commerce shipments which at times may have single container loads which may be into crores also at times. So with this kind of a sensitive cargo or easily fungible cargo, if I may say so, if it is pilfered, how do you look at the security and the cargo protection at your end as an entity?
So I think, unfortunately, we are not as lucky as Sumit ji. So we do deal with a lot of damage and pilferage. There's a lot of threat of shortages, damages, theft. Because in FMCG and e-commerce, the risk profile is very different compared to hazardous goods. Because basically what we are transporting, it is like liquid currency, phones, gadgets, household products, everything you can go and sell. So the incentive to sell is very high, the ease to sell is very high, so there's a lot of chances of all of these happening, and it is very important for us to control that. And as I was saying earlier, there's a lot of impressive technology available now, like everything that I mentioned, AI dash cams, all your telematics, surveillance cameras, everything is available. But I think the technology is not enough, because what it will ultimately do is it cannot protect you from the losses. It will just expose your weaknesses. So you need to have the proper systems and processes to act on what that technology is telling you. I think that is very critical. So we've defined very clear, SOPs, as my fellow panelists were saying. Having a team that is skilled and having a team that is strictly following the SOPs is very important. And what happens a lot of times is, to Sumitji's point, a lot of shortage is driver initiated, right? Because they do feel the need, unfortunately, to engage in this kind of behavior, and we have to think of what is a systemic reason behind this. But in those cases, like what we do as a company is we make sure that the action we take is very firm and very visible. Because the intention is, not to punish drivers, but the intention is that you have to set a precedent that these kind of breaches will not be tolerated. There will be a consistent and, strict action taken. So then there's kind of caution in the entire ecosystem. So I think that is very important. And I think a lot of times what we think about shortage and damage, and like we introduced a lot of predictable, route stoppages. We predefined routes, we've predefined stoppages. But what we started to see is that that is actually also vulnerability. Because, when people know, whether it's your drivers, your planners, or, third parties, they know where you're stopping, how long the stoppage is when you're transporting high-value cargo. Like some of our trucks, as you rightly mentioned, actually most of our trucks are at least between 50 lakhs to 1 crores, and many are even over that. So when you have these kind of high-value goods and people know where you're stopping, that exposes a weakness. People can exploit that. So now we've had to introduce some controlled randomness into this, whether it's changing the routes randomly or, adding some new stoppages. And I think the other thing is, also being careful about the security, because, for instance, for e-commerce, we transported trucks of just purely iPhones. So you can imagine, how expensive it was, and we were literally, our hearts were in our mouths when that was happening. But here you can have, your security escorts, you can have all your security protocols, but sometimes that's just attracting more attention. So it's very important to kind of find that fine balance. So I think it is definitely like, a lot of solutions available to stop or at least minimize the damages and pilferages, and especially for us, it is very crucial. Because ultimately, if the driver cannot bear that loss, the client is not ready to bear that loss comes on to us as transporters, and it is a heavy loss to take. So e-locks, all of these systems you can have, but I think it's very important that you have the right process and you keep evolving those processes with the help of tech. I think that is the only way to kind of survive in this ecosystem.
So thank you, Nikita, for that final answer. And if I have to just sum up the discussion in 30 seconds before, maybe we check for questions. I think we discussed on a lot of topics. We discussed on the infrastructural risks, the operational risks. We also talked about, the delays and pilferage part of the risk situation. What I think comes across as a common understanding is it's the SOPs and procedures that we need to put in place, and these, as the topic itself says, are specialized in nature. I mean, it cannot be a one-size-fits-all, especially in this kind of a sector. Something might work for, say, ODC, might not work for bulk, or vice versa for clean cargo. But what's important is to have a process-centered approach and a human-centered approach, as Sumitji very rightly mentioned. So with that in mind, I think we can conclude this panel discussion before I check for questions. Do we have time for questions? I think with that, I'd like to thank the panel here, Mr. Sumit, Ms. Nikita, Mr. Rajiv, and Mr. Ramratan Singhi, all of you. You've brought in all of your diverse areas of expertise into this discussion and given us some good thoughts to think about, especially with each of your particular subsectors and the nuances that we are seeing in that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think we can take a few questions from the audience. Any questions? Please raise your hand. Okay.
So, hi, my name is Sharan. I am from Light Matrix. So we have spoken many operational issues, financial issues, technological issues. We have not spoken about the regulatory issues that government is imposing. Suddenly government comes in and makes it standard and mandatory that two vehicles should be coming with 2 airbags. Something like that. We understood the importance of track and trace. Now the government has made it mandatory that AS 140 standards and the commercial vehicles shall be implemented with AS 140 equipped device. But again, the solution is not really suitable for a specialized cargo or maybe the e-commerce thing, because you need to have an advanced solutions like a video recording, something like that. So AS 140, in my view, I was in telematics from quite some time, though it is made commercially mandatory, but again, it is not a successful technology because the whole purpose of track and trace of the particular vehicle or the driving behavior of the driver is not really met with. Having said that, I think the government is also going to mandate AIS 184 standards for commercial vehicles, right? So, how do you think that this regulation is going to impact your operations? Maybe anyone of you can answer.
I think just the day before yesterday, I was reading about this new AIS 184 regulations, which are coming in next 2 years. Government is mandating, and part of that, plan that the government has, it has probably driver drowsiness detection as one of the elements, autonomous emergency braking as one of the elements of that particular program, and lane departure warnings and everything. Now, if you look at the video telematics, the way it has evolved in the last 3-4 years, all these are very basics that you get the moment you install a video telematic device in your truck with 2 channels, one facing the driver and one facing the road. You get all these basics through that particular video telematics. So while the government is trying to mandate in next 2 years, I think most of the forward-looking and future fleets, as the program says, future fleets, so future fleet owners are already on the job of getting those things installed. In our use case, all of our trucks are now fitted with video telematics. So we have already seen the benefits which far exceed the investment. So I don't need a regulation for that. Okay, it's a choice I have to make on a commercial basis. And then the second part is, of course, the ability to generate a certain video footage in case an accident is happening where my driver is not at the fault. I can present that as a case to the as an evidence. That is another one reason to invest in these technologies. And the third is, of course, the most important one being the saving of a human life in any form, in any way, whether it is the life of our driver or it is the life of the other person in let's say another vehicle. So in all these scenarios, video telematics justifies the investment that we have made today, and we can say that for us it is not regulation, it is a kind of a need for us that we need to have this to keep our operations all intact and in profitable and sustainable way.
I think just to briefly add on to what Sir was saying, I think completely echo with that sentiment. I think if we wait for the government to kind of mandate these devices and then install only the government approved devices that they are coming out with, I think we'll already be far behind the curve. Because I think the scale at which AI is evolving, the scale at which technology is evolving, I'm not necessarily sure that the government mandated devices will be able to come up with that same level of technology, right? So I think it is the onus and the responsibility is on us as transporters, as logistics service providers, to keep ourselves upgraded, to get the advanced technology and to kind of see this as an investment. Like that's what I was saying, you have to take a long-term view, you have to see it as an investment and you have to opt for it and it will realize its benefits. And I know it is not very commercially feasible for everyone, but at least I think we should all opt for a pilot, at least with 10, 15 vehicles, whatever we can, see the benefits, see the actual tangible, advantages of the software and solutions and technology and then decide what to do. Because I think if we wait for the government to mandate and then introduce those devices, I think we'll already be 5 to 6 years behind. So I think that is at least my view on this.
Next question, anyone?
Any more questions from the audience?
So, again, I have a viewpoint on this. See, something government doesn't really follow technology, let's be honest. There is some guy who's a front runner of it. Somebody like Raman sir who, buys the AC vehicles before it is getting mandated and sees that, somebody is implementing that technology or some sort of innovation in their fleet, right? I think this is the time where the industry stalwarts like you embrace technology and maybe adopt it so that, we understand, we realize the value of it, maybe then pitch it to the government so that it is made mandatory, so that the cost factors will get into the picture and the prices are again stabilized, so that the safety standards are increased and maybe cost is again absorbed because of the government mandate. So yeah, I request maybe the industry altogether to, try out new technologies and see what benefit you can get out of it and, help the roads make a little more safer. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your point of view. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we should thank everybody here on the dais with a big round of applause. Come on, everybody.